Welcome to the Ideal Investor Show. Join us on the journey to financial success. Let's go. Today, I wanted to address something that I've seen in some articles and on TV and some YouTube channels and stuff like that. And that is, like we're titling it, Multifamily Madness. What it really refers to is that so many people are looking to find 2, 3, and 4 unit properties, basically a duplex, triplex, or fourplex. Now, one thing that also has to be realized is that those haven't really been built in the last 20 years at any kind of significant number. I have one relationship within our Ideal Wealth Grower community with an organization that specializes on fourplex building, and they build whole communities like 100 unit development where they break it down in 25 fourplexes in the 100 unit development. And so investors can, buy 1 or 2 of those fourplexes. Now, when they're brand new developments, they're definitely not cash flowing, especially not right now in the current interest rate environment. But why is there madness, and why do people want to find these? Let me give you a few reasons. On the smaller side, duplex and triplex, what you can do is you can, for example, find opportunities to make them relatively better cash flowing investments than a single family home. Why is that? If you think about, you have a house, 4 bedroom, 2 baths. Depending on exactly how it's laid out, if you were able to say, okay, I can somehow make it so that I have a second entrance, I separate it into 2 units of like something like 800-900 square foot each. Each has like 2 bedroom, 1 bath. And in the newly created one, you probably have to put in a little bit of a kitchenette somehow. That's your only investment. But if you have those 2 units and you say, okay, well, I can rent each unit for, let's say, $850 or $900 a month. The question is, would you get $1,700 a month if you were to rent the whole house? So fundamentally, smaller units per square foot rent for higher rent than larger units, especially when they get really, really large. If you say, okay, I have a triplex and the triplex has 2,700 square foot, or I have a fourplex and the fourplex has, let's say, 3,500 or 4,000 square feet, right? So if you had a 4,000 square foot house, you would never get the same per square foot rent than you get for 1,000 square foot units. Now, with a duplex, it's still reasonably doable to separate an existing single-family home. Always remembering you need to get permits and zoning changes for that. But let's assume that is all done. You can reasonably easy get a single family into a duplex. In some cases, converting a house that is a single family originally into a fourplex is very, very rare and hard to do. On the other hand, triplex and fourplexes used to be built in the past. And what makes them so attractive? Why is that the sweet spot right now? If you really think about it, let's say we go with the ideal find. You find a fourplex, something that was originally built as a fourplex, has like 4 kitchens, 8 bathrooms. It has separate meters for water and gas and all this stuff. So it's literally built for that purpose. And even if you need to renovate it, either you renovate it or you buy it after renovation, why is it the sweet spot? Why are people so interested in it? Well, if you think about it, if that fourplex costs $400,000, right? Then at current interest rates, you just for the mortgage, you would pay somewhere in the area of probably $2,500 or so in just for the mortgage. But then if you divide this, and here comes the interesting part, by 3, then the mortgage payment for each unit, and we were just saying each unit is somewhere between 900 to 1,000 square feet, the mortgage payment proportion for 3 units on a $2,000 mortgage would only be something in the area of $675. Now, on top of that, you would also need to collect some money for insurance, a little bit of money for property tax, and obviously you also want to make some cash flow. Let's say you want to only make $100 per unit. So the rent price will end up being somewhere between $900 to $1,000 a month for a 1,000 square foot unit in that fourplex. But have you realized what I just said? These 3 out of 4 units will basically pay for everything. And you yourself could live in the 4th unit on a 1,000 square foot unit with 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, something like that, and live for free. And if there's anything going on in the house, you'll be right there and you could help your tenants in the other 3 units. There are actually cases, and it depends a little bit on the location and so forth, where you can even make more than $100 income. But if you really think about it, why people see it as a sweet spot is that even in our relatively high interest rate environment today, with a fourplex, you can create a scenario where you can basically live rent-free in 1 unit and rent out the other 3 units. And those 3 units will break even, cover all the costs that you have with the property. And if you listen regularly to the Ideal Investor Show, you will know that I've always said real estate on average appreciates at 3% roundabout per year, almost guaranteed, which is pretty close to the real inflation as well, on average, if you go like 20, 30, 40 years. Now think about that. You bought a $400,000 that increases by 3%. That's $12,000 a year in value increase, or equity, if you want to call it that, right? That is basically growing onto the house and you pay nothing, literally zero. That's why people are so interested. Now, with the triplex, where you live in 1 unit and you have 2 units to pay, it depends much more on the location and the size and so forth, so that you can get to a point where you completely, these other 2 rented units generate so much income that all your cost is covered. Now, obviously, a triplex wouldn't cost the same like a fourplex, so your cost would also be a little lower. But even in that scenario, let's say you live and each unit pays $800 in rent and you have to pay $150 or $200 out of pocket, that's still much, much better than finding a place for yourself where you have to pay $800, right? So that's why these multifamily units are so interesting for investors if you are in the local area, if you can be a beneficiary. The other scenario I want to touch on for parents that have kids getting into college age. If you were to buy a fourplex, and in that case, the fourplex can have actually relatively smaller units. So instead of trying to find a 4,000 square foot fourplex, if you were to find a 2,000 square foot fourplex and each unit is 500 square feet, that's plenty for a student, right? And so then you can rent out 3 of the units to other students, and the 1 unit is for your own student, for your own child that goes to that college and lives in that unit. Now, obviously, you wouldn't have to charge your own son or daughter, but you would basically have an asset that is increasing in value, that the other students pay for all the costs. And if you want to be a very generous parent, you can say, okay, kid, when you're done with your own college, we rent the 4th unit as well. And sooner or later, I'm basically slowly gifting you this fourplex as a source of income. And so then your student child, son or daughter, would ultimately own an asset, a fourplex, at a college that he or she actually went to, that generates income for the rest of their life. So that's another little twist why there is some multi-family madness going on. That second option, I think, is very, very underestimated. People that have college kids rather want to pay tuition and help them pay tuition and food and find a place to live, and oftentimes have pretty horrible living conditions, when they could actually make an investment and really set up the student, son or daughter, for life. So that's another consideration in this context. So I hope you learned a little bit that was informative for you, and be well and stay safe, and I talk to you tomorrow.